All right, guys, we're on chapter 35, The Grimstone Deal. Jules looked around the dirty abandoned platform. Decent place for a pitch, but a lousy hideout. March pointed to the graffiti on the opposite wall. Matt Hennenbury, come home, Dominic PH. Does that mean anything to you? She shook her head. Nothing. They sat inside the train car on the touristy fleece blankets they brought in a gift shop. Izzy unpacked the Chinese takeout. Nobody said anything as they passed cartons and chopsticks. The night lay heavy on them, but they were hungry anyway. Gabriella, come here! I had it in my hands, Jules said, spearing a dumpling. We blew it, March said. Izzy scooped up some rice. What happened to you, Jules? Jules chewed her dumpling and swallowed. Oscar was watching the group home, she said. I saw the car on the next block over. Same dark green Audi that was at the cemetery. Remember, March? March nodded. He remembered seeing the car, but he had never noticed it in the neighborhood. That is, if Jules was telling the truth. I was looking in the window when Oscar got back. Pass the sauce, Izzy? The next thing I knew, I was thrown into the back seat. Jules dunked her second dumpling. He made me a deal. Help him and he'd help me. We do one job and we'd split the proceeds. She popped the food in her mouth. So you went. There wasn't a choice involved, Jules said. My hands were tied, literally. March looked at her face. He didn't know whether to believe her. She saw that he didn't trust her, and her face dropped and darkened. She concentrated on spearing a spring roll. He took me to some swanky apartment in the city. He kept most of the rooms locked. Could you find it again? Don't think so. I was tossed on the floor of the car. He pulled right into a parking garage, and we took some back stairs up to the apartment. He never let me see anything. Shades were always drawn. Scary, Izzy whispered. She shivered. Yeah, it was. You did it, though, March said. You pulled off the first heist. Oscar made me practice with the vacuum pack in the apartment, Jules said. It had 2 floors, so he set up a harness and he had me suck up stones hanging from the landing. He had the uniforms, the tools. He'd already paid off the night doorman next door, so he got away over the roof. I hate to say it, but it was sort of brilliant. Yeah, because Elfie planned it, March said. You mean Oscar stole a plan of Elfie's? March held her gaze. Or you stole it from me. Everyone stopped chewing. March and Jules stared each other down. I didn't. Jules spoke the words quietly. There was no bluster, no anger in her tone. And if you're not going to believe me, forget it. I'm gone. Now everyone stopped breathing. When you don't know what to do, slow a moment down. March tried to push past the hurt and the anger at Jules, past the scared feeling and the ache of missing his dad that lay so deep in his heart. All that confusion and mess, and find something real and true. Looking straight at her, straight into her steady gaze, he realized something. The thing that had been missing. The person who wasn't there. It wasn't his mom, it was Jules. All along, she'd been that shadow. It wasn't like he remembered her, but he knew her, and he knew she wasn't lying. Gabriella! Okay, he said, I believe you. Jules gave a short nod as if they'd made a deal. Okay. The oxygen seemed to flow back into the space, and Izzy smiled. Darius picked up his chopsticks. So did Oscar split the take? Jules made a sour face. No, he said he needed it for expenses. I think he's going to fence a few gems at a time for safety's sake. I knew he was going to sell me out. I figured it was better to steal the widow's knot from him and take my chances. Then we popped up and everything went wrong, March said. Listen to the two of you and everything. Excuse me. Listen to the two of you, Darius said around a mouthful of Kung Pao chicken. Doom meet gloom. Don't you realize that we almost got away with it? Almost isn't good enough, March said. We have squat. Darius shook his head. Not the way I see it. Jules got his hands on the jewels for a second. March figured out a plan to get us in and get us out, and even how to steal the piece. Maybe would have done if Jules hadn't shown up. Almost is pretty good for your first heist when we're a bunch of kids, don't you say? Jules grinned. Watch out, we've got an optimist in our midst. Darius smiled back, a genuine grin that made March realize for the first time how handsome he was. Face it, you two have talent. And some old bat smack crazy lady offered us a deal for 7 million. I figure I'm ahead. The Moonstones, March said. 7 chances to be rich. He reached into his pocket. He held up the Moonstone. 6 to go. And I'm going to stop there for today because Gabby obviously wants some water and isn't going to be quiet. And oh, you're going to do it? Okay, thank you. All right, Bill's going to get water. Chapter 36, The Throwaway Game. The stone flipped from his fingers almost as if he had jumped. It spun in the air. It seemed to capture every bit of the dim light, drawing in and leaving them to sudden darkness. It hung in the air. March felt an eerie thrill. Then it tumbled onto the blanket, and it turned into just another gemstone rolling against a paper carton of Chinese food. Whoa, Darius said. That was weird, wasn't it? They all looked up at another, then down at the Moonstone. Where'd you get it? Jules asked. Elfie, the night he died. March squeezed his eyes shut. He couldn't even think of that last moment, the one heartbeat between Elfie dying and being alive, the hinge between having his father and not having him. Gabriella, go get water. You wanted it. All of his crying had taken place when he was alone. He wanted to keep it that way. He was fading out, he said, and he said, follow the falls today. What does that mean? Jules asked. No idea. He was pretty out of it by then. Right before that, he told me to wait a month before I found you. She frowned. Why? He shrugged. No clue. The pain of the memory was still searing. Him kneeling next to Elfie, right there, and Elfie looking at him, fading, but with that last fierce light in his gaze. And March was saying, don't die. And Elfie was saying simply no, getting out that last word in his last breath. The word was no, which didn't seem right at all. Elfie had such a big yes to everything. Jules picked up the Moonstone and held it up. So we have one from the Amsterdam heist. March nodded. Oscar has 3. One from the vacuum heist you did for him, and you tossed him 2 tonight. Yeah, I guess I should have let him strangle you, Jules said. My point is that I'd be surprised if Bat Smack Lady Grimstone didn't already offer somebody else the challenge to gather the Moonstones, March said. She wouldn't rely on a bunch of kids, would she? Or just a backup plan? And Elfie left you some kind of list of where the Moonstones are? Jules asked. March nodded. Plus suggestions for methods. Izzy decoded the target list. There are 7 Moonstones and 6 heists. Elfie did 1 in Amsterdam. You did Michelle Westlake. And we all bungled Dolores Leon. Come on, Arch. Come on. Come on, Arch. Now you made me lose my spot, Archie. Pickup plan. I totally lost my place. Oh, all this for Moonstones, Jules asked. She held it up. Pretty, but it's not a diamond. They're not just any Moonstones, March said. They're magic. Jules sputtered a laugh. Right. It doesn't matter if you think it's stupid, March pointed out. Grimstone believes it. I'm guessing that's 10 years ago. Elfie sold them to his fence. They were broken up and made into other jewelry. Jules drummed his fingers on her leg. But what do we do now? Where do we go? The police are going to analyze all the security footage from the museum. They're going to ID us eventually. It won't be hard. I never thought about that, Izzy said in a small voice. All those cameras in the museum, they saw us. They were all silent for a minute. They thought of police and judges and jails. They must. There's only one thing that can get us clear, March said. One thing that will make us disappear. Accept the deal. $7 million, Izzy said dreamily. We could go anywhere in the world, be anything, and have cupcakes for breakfast. And a yacht, Darius said. Do you think we could do it, Jules asked? Really pull off the rest of the heist? What about Oscar? That would be the first heist, March decided. That's the only way Grimstone would know we're serious. We'd get all 3 of his at once. Wouldn't you like to do that? Tie him up in knots? She grinned. You bet. Even if it means you have to be a thief? Jules chewed her lip. I guess I already am. We're the throwaway kids, Darius said. People think we can't do anything, but we could do this. All of us together make something more than all of us apart, right? The throwaways, Izzy said. I always wanted to be in a gang. March felt his skin buzzing, his blood alive and racing. A door opened inside his mind, and possibility rushed in. Maybe there really was another way to live. Maybe they really could do this. No more adults, March said. No more group homes. No more social services. With 7 million, we can figure out how to live the way we want. Are we in? Silently, they all bumped fists. The throwaway gang is born, March said. Let's make a plan. All right, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.